Hey guys, welcome to something we're going to be doing a little bit different today. So this is the very first episode of a new show called Homescreen by 11FS. We'll explain to you a little bit more about what this is and what we're going to try and do and try and achieve with this show very shortly. But before we do that, Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do at 11FS?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Jim. I'm an analyst here on the research team at 11FS, mainly working on a product called Pulse. What this is a repository of different digital banking journeys that we'll capture and put on the platform for our users to take a look at. And on there, we really kind of try and highlight the best in practice, and we'll take a look at every single market that we can, really, all of the different verticals, and yeah, so that's what we're up to.
Cool. So Pulse for us is we were like, man, are we being like a little bit greedy? Or for those lucky people who have got access to Pulse and actually get access to all of those insights on a day-to-day basis, wonderful. But for all of you guys out there who don't have access, how can we start bringing the interesting things that we're seeing happening globally in this space? Because actually, given the level of capability and how quickly these things are actually moving forwards, then there's new and amazing things happening week on week in terms of the global view of fintech and banking. So what we're going to be doing with Homescreen is bringing one of those most impactful or interesting or potentially a weird one, when we find a weird one, to bring and show you actually what's happening and actually the experiences that customers are going to get. So what are we going to be talking about today then, Jim?
So this week it's going to be a look at the onboarding experience for Monzo. So this is the amazing fintech that we have here in the UK. They're doing really well. They've got a great number of users, 1.5 million the last time we checked. And they recently won a Best App Award at the British Bank Awards, which, of course, David, you picked up something very similar.
We did.
And then what we'll be able to do is take a look at the way that their onboarding works and try and figure out why they're so good at what they do. And then we're kind of comparing that to the fact that in 2018, 56% of all bank account applications in the UK were abandoned. So there's this kind of real disparity between like how are these guys translating all of that amazing work, and how are the others just not doing that? So.
Well, and we've definitely seen big incumbent banks really struggle with onboarding. Old processes, old technology, sort of almost archaic in some instances, risk modeling to allow people to just even think about doing things in a different way.
For sure.
And actually, this is one of the things that the challenger banks generally, Monzo very specifically, but actually generally most of the challenger banks are aiming for 3, 4, 5 minute account opening process, which is really, really unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what we can do is with those, we can take a look at the sort of a few of the key things that we think they're doing really well. What you can kind of think about from a product perspective to make changes for your own situations, or maybe you're looking to do something similar, then these are the things that we think are really, really good. So we're going to take a look today at the terms and conditions, how they're doing kind of ID checks, and then kind of the introduction of this virtual card element. So we'll talk a little bit about those in a bit more detail now. And yeah, kind of what it does is all these three things are contributing to the sort of freshness and the newness of this experience. And it kind of makes sure that everyone's applications are sort of done within typically 4 and 5 minutes, which is massively impressive.
Now, terms and conditions doesn't sound like necessarily the most sexiest topic in the world, but maybe let's start there and see where we get.
Yeah, absolutely. So the terms and conditions is a really interesting one because we're not really aware of anyone who's doing anything particularly interesting about that. So if we take a look at the video, we've got a nice sort of hyperlink which will take us through to the terms and conditions area. What we'll do there is we can see these kind of highlighted areas of text and then a few bits of grayed out text below there. What this does is it kind of allows us to kind of flick through via that call to action to the next section and really focuses the attention on these key bits of information that Monzo want you to kind of take a look at. There's emojis throughout, the language is simple and playful, and what it does is it makes sure that everything's sort of more digestible, bite-sized, and we're kind of really simplifying the process of doing that. Once we're happy, we'll click through and we click continue. So that's kind of where we're at with Monzo's terms and conditions. Obviously, it's great to be able to kind of take a look at those things and see how they're doing it. They're kind of the only brand that we know that are doing this sort of thing. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think it's something that big organizations are typically reasonably bad at.
Yeah.
Terms and conditions are written by lawyers, solicitors, in a different office, trying to protect the bank from the customer.
Yeah,
and actually what Monzo have done here, which is lovely, is actually make the terms and conditions human digestible.
Absolutely.
Like you say, the tone of voice, the way in which they're engaging it, using plain English to actually allow people to read these things and actually understand what it means without actually having to go to a solicitor to understand. So
for sure.
So for me, that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
This isn't just covering your backside. This is adding real value to the end user.
Absolutely. And one of the things which is interesting to note here is that Monzo are really keen on this kind of new trend towards microcopy. So making things as succinct and short as possible. They're very open about the fact that they want to kind of keep that. And so kind of it makes sense that this is the approach that they've taken for terms and conditions. How can we deliver the value of our terms and conditions and make people trust us and give us the kind of safety that we've got, whilst also making it bite-sized and easy to understand. So it does a great deal for the sort of transparent and easy to understand service, kind of placing that emphasis on sort of disarming the language a little bit more, creating bite-sized chunks to give their sort of trustworthy and transparent branding that, what it needs.
Very cool. All right, what have we got next?
So up next is a look at ID checks. So this is the process where Monzo users will be able to take a photograph and a video of kind of key bits of information. You'll see here photo ID of the documents. And what we'll then see is a carousel here introducing exactly what we'll need to take a look at. So here we've got this nice to meet you message, and then after that's click next, we'll go on to step 1, which is taking the picture. Click on that call to action button, we select the type of document that we want to take a look at, and then Monzo will take our camera and allow us to take the picture of the ID document. So this is a nice simple frame. It's nothing too simple, nothing too complicated going on here. We use the picture, and then what's happening next? Take picture of the back, and what we'll do then is move on to the next section, which will be talking about the how they'll then capture a video of us. So we've got something to compare to the document that they're taking pictures of here. So moving on to the video, we'll allow them to record the audio, and then the user puts their face in the frame. So click on the record button, and then from there the user speaks a sentence, and then we'll submit our verification. So that's basically the process which most fintechs are going through at the minute in terms of identifying documents. And what we'll do then is we'll take a look at the way that these KYC processes and these AML checks can be done, and who's helping Monzo to do those. So it's notable to start off with that sort of stuff themselves, when there's perfectly great people in the market who are doing it, a wonderful job of it. So there are 2 typical approaches to how this is done. The first one is known as the SDK approach. So this is software development kits. These are traditionally produced by RegTech companies like Onfido, Authentics, those kind of companies. And what they'll do is they'll allow you as a brand to input their own sort of front end into your onboarding flow. You'll typically see the logo sort of placed in there, and then you can kind of just use their sort of frames. Monzo have taken another approach. So this involves the building these services into the back end of the app. What does that allow them to do? It allows them to have kind of control over who the providers are. They'll be able to say, look, we want to use Onfido because of X, Y, and Z, but maybe we want to look at Jumio today, because maybe Onfido have having some problems or whatever.
Well, that's a very sensible way of going, and I think
Absolutely.
with having seen experience of organisations have trouble when a processor goes down or whatever, giving themselves that optionality in the back office and having people integrated into their system rather than their process integrated into their capability, that's a much better way about going about it. Onfido and Authentics particularly are kind of becoming household names for this as well. So why try and create a capability that's actually already market leading? Smart move on these guys, give themselves optionality. If something else comes out in 2 or 3 years' time that's much better than these guys, they can switch out.
For sure.
But use the best right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've also seen is that this isn't the only approach. So big fintechs out there in the market, not only here but in other countries, so Revolut and Bunk in the Netherlands, they'll use these SDKs. So there's definitely a lot of value to be gained from these. It allows you to kind of really get that really professional RegTech system built into your app nice and early.
Cool.
So that's kind of the approach that they have to these ID checks. it's sort of like, as we mentioned before, how can we leverage the best performing services? And yeah, these people do this better, so let's just let them get on with it.
Nice. And I guess, these two first points very much about making it simple for people, getting them onboarded really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But I guess there's always been that problem sort of post any, paper-based application process or an online application that you've got to wait for the card to come through in the post, right?
For sure.
And I guess the next point really sort of moves people beyond that. You can start using your product immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a look at the virtual cards for Monzo. So this is a Google phone, or not a Google phone, this is an Android phone. And so we can see here the user is able to load a virtual card onto Google Pay and then start using that straight away. So click continue here. You can see Google working through their terms and conditions, contacting the bank. So going straight there to the bank and saying, is this person who they say they are? And then, yeah, we're quick, we're all set. Monzo send us a push notification to say we're now set up. So we've got this really clear and quick access to our spending with Monzo right away. What this does is it's kind of a quick virtual card and an overdraft facility, which is given if we so want it. And what we can do is see that sort of process of having to wait around for the card, as you mentioned, David, just vanishes like that. You could be outside on the street, open up a Monzo account, and then realistically walk into a shop and buy something with it. It's a really great way of ensuring that your product gets used quickly, and a great way of building that relationship between you and the product by kind of getting that stickiness down right there and then.
It's an interesting one because actually all of the things that tie into this as well, because it's not just about getting somebody a product and having it immediately, but actually just all in the back office there, fraud mechanics, everything that they've got in place to allow this to take place. You can create an account in minutes. That's not something that you see in the incumbents. So the knock-on effect of really, really good KYC and instantaneously being able to start using a product actually sort of factors all the way through their infrastructure, their architecture in terms of the capability that they've put in place. So,
for sure.
So are these guys doing it best in this market right now? Is this the sort of best that's out there?
I think so. Just in terms of like leveraging all of the really important stuff for getting the user to use the card straight away. If you're not able to load money onto your card straight away, here's an overdraft. Obviously you don't want to use it, but you can dip in for £1 or whatever if you want to get using the card straight away. And in terms of the actual reg text, that ensures a nice continuity for a lot of these fintechs. They're able to rely on that as a software. They're able to say, we don't mind, we can look after our side of the bargain. We know that these guys are going to look after their end, and it's all going to be a good experience for us. So that I think that this is probably the best experience from what we've seen. What it does is it does that really good job of getting rid of the gap between the sign up and the first use. And yeah, we can kind of see that this is pointing to a wider trend in some other markets, but maybe not in the UK as of yet. So these guys are really clear leaders in the market. But in the Netherlands, for example, we see that they're starting to use these digital onboarding experiences even just a couple of weeks ago, actually. So there's a really nice kind of use case coming along in these different markets once they're seeing that the fintechs are having such big successes with it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that probably wraps us up for this week, because actually what we wanted to do is test this and see what happens and bring to you something that we thought was probably one of the best examples out there of onboarding. There's going to be many, many more of these shows. We're going to be coming to you back with many different areas of sort of dissecting through the journeys that we find probably the most impactful that's out there globally. If you guys want to hear or see something specific, if there's a fintech out there that you're like, these guys are actually killing it on this capability, or do you know what, we've always kind of wondered what Alipay looks like, but given it's in Chinese, I've got no idea what all that stuff means, then hit us up on pulse@11fs.com, drop us an email with a journey that you would be really interested to see. But as of now, me and Jim will be back next week. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.